So you've heard a lot of angles on this. Trey Lance. Was he drafted to be the heir apparent for Dak Prescott? No, what was he traded for?
There, yeah.
No. Was he traded to be a developmental quarterback? Not really. Wait, what? So why did they get him? Remember what I've told you, what I've said about Dak Prescott since the loss of the 49ers in the playoffs. It's different for him now. The Cowboys, the team, the media, the fans all view him differently because that was a horrible game, and he cost them that game not playing well. Now, were the 49ers really good? Yeah. They're the best defense in the NFL? Yeah. Were they loaded? Yes. But the Cowboys defense allowed basically one play, allowed one touchdown, and Dak turned the ball over twice in the first half and couldn't get the Cowboys in the end zone. This is a guy who just signed that $40+ million extension, and he couldn't come through in a game when the Cowboys needed him the most. There had been a lot of excuses, a lot of waiting for Dak Prescott. That's the game he got paid for, and he did not come through. Since that moment, Dak Prescott has been viewed differently by the Dallas Cowboys. And now it's, Dak, you need to show up and show out. Why go get Trey Lance? They got Trey Lance to just put pressure on Prescott to show that you need to step up. This is the equivalent of the Packers drafting Jordan Love to motivate Aaron Rodgers, who hadn't had a great last couple of years. Hey, we're going to go get Jordan Love. And what happened? That motivated Rodgers into back-to-back MVP-type seasons. And everybody saw that. Hey, was it worth it? Yeah, you could say it was. You drafted a guy in the first round, and in the end, you got 2 MVP seasons out of your quarterback. Yeah, I think that's worth it. This is exactly why the Cowboys went and got Trey Lance, because they wanted it to be this not-so-subtle message. Hey, Dak, we're compiling quarterbacks here. You got to step it up here a little bit. You're getting paid a lot of money. You're 30 years old. There's been a lot of excuses. Yes, you've been saying the right things, doing the right things, but you turned the football over way too much. You couldn't get us in the end zone. This is one of those, hey, this specter of Trey Lance is going to be hanging over you and hanging over the Cowboys all season long. Do the Cowboys have any desire to play him? No. Do they have any desire to see him be the starting quarterback? No. This is here just to let Dak Prescott know, dude, this is not going to be a free ride anymore. And if you don't come through, we're going to look to make changes. Now, this could be a end of this year change. It could be an end of next year change. But the Cowboys are telling Dak Prescott, there is an end time for you with us if you don't come through. And it could, if it's really bad this year, could they get into a quarterback situation in the offseason where they go get a quarterback and move on to Dak Prescott? Yeah, I could see it. Could there be one more year after this where it's, hey, after this big year went bad and it's a meeting and it's, if you don't come through this year, we're going someplace else, and now it's Trey Lance, his second year with the team, and maybe he takes over, or they're going to go after someone? This was the Cowboys putting a clock on Prescott saying, you don't have until the end of your career to win. Now, we got to win now. We're putting this team together. We got a lot of guys on one-year contracts. We're spending money. There is a clock on it now for you. That's why the Trey Lance trade was made, because they found it wasn't too expensive for, and crazy, 4th-round pick. I didn't think they get a 4th-round pick. You know me, I said conditional 6th would what it would wind up being, but a 4th-round pick, because for the Cowboys, it's worth it to motivate your quarterback, to let him know, dude, tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, I mean, we look at different permutations of what the contract is and outs and everything, and we know anything can be done with contracts at this point. It's what we were talking about a little bit with the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray, and now the race for Caleb Williams is upon us, or maybe Sam Hartman before it's all said and done. But just the idea that even if you sign a huge contract, you'll find a way to wriggle out of it. It might cost you some money, might cost you some extra draft picks, whatever the case may be. You take on a bit of water, but you get out. Hold your nose. And for this, I mean, Dak Prescott's comments, pretty pointed that he was shocked by it. A little upset Will Greer's gone. Will Greer has the game of his life. After all of this, he'll get released and on we go. Or he'll get traded because he might be able to command a 5th-round pick after what he showed the other night. Who knows? Found money, as it were. But for Jerry Jones, we know he likes shiny objects. We know he likes to be the talk of the NFL. And for a 4th-round pick, he gets to be the guy that spurs on a lot of conversation. And yes, maybe lights the fire under Dak Prescott's ass in the process as it goes. For this year, like, I think Jerry said all the right things. It's not a move made that they expect to see him on the field and to have any impact at all. I'm paraphrasing, but that's where he went with it. Like, we don't expect him to be on the field, but you get him a year with Mike McCarthy. Maybe there's something learned there. Maybe there's some growth in a new environment. But as we've talked about, there's not an expectation that you're really getting much of anything, even in the long term. Because otherwise, the 49ers aren't trading him in conference. And to the Dallas Cowboys, where if you look at any history of the 49ers, who's the opponent in pretty much every meaningful game? It's the Cowboys. So you're not going to say, hey, let's keep them in conference if you had anything near to that in terms of an offer. We talked to Jason Cole about this all offseason, and this is where he estimated it was at draft time. And lo and behold, there it is. There's your 4th-round pick. So for Dak Prescott, yeah, I think you start hearing it a little bit. Remember he guaranteed he wouldn't have double-digit interceptions again?
See, I wouldn't put that guarantee out there.
I like you know me. I like bold proclamations. I like guys that believe in themselves. Tip balls, craziness, right? Aaron Rodgers, number of balls last year that he was a beat slow or a beat fast because he didn't have that time with the receivers. Those all go down as interceptions on you. So, Dak, there's only so much you can control, and especially when you got a run game that I don't think anybody's believing you're getting 25 touches or carries out of Pollard and everybody's hero Deuce Vaughn every game. It's going to be a lot on your arm. It is. Defense came up big in that game against San Francisco. You scored 12 points.
Yeah. That game changed everything for Prescott. It changed absolutely everything for how he was viewed, what the Cowboys think of him, how long he has to wait, everything. And it was Dallas saying, yeah, we need to do it. And I honestly thought they're going to draft Hendon Hooker in the 2nd round. They had met with him a lot. Yeah. He's injured. He's going to be the guy they use for leverage to say, Dak, tick, 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 like Berman, tick, 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 tick. But they didn't, and they stayed off, and maybe their plan was to try to do something just like this. But Trey Lance for a 4th-round pick, if this motivates Dak Prescott to understand that, okay, I got to step it up and I got to challenge myself a little bit more. I have to have a higher level to my play. It's worth it. Right? Because it was worth it. As much as, Jordan Love, yes, Aaron Rodgers is gone. You got 2 MVP seasons out of Aaron Rodgers, and he went someplace else at the age of 39. All right, it didn't go well last year. He was done. You drafted a quarterback, and now you have the new guy coming into play. It was worth it for the Packers. They got more out of that than you could possibly imagine. Now, would it have been nice to get a guy in the 1st round that would have played? Could have been an impact guy? Yeah, but you don't know, are you getting those MVP-type years from Aaron Rodgers if he's just kind of going out there to play?
Yeah, but you'd also gone down the road, and the longer we get into these timelines, and this is the danger of Tom Brady playing as long as he did, is that you start getting infatuated with the idea that a bunch of quarterbacks are suddenly going to play forever. Right? Remember what happened to Peyton Manning? Yeah, he got that 2nd Super Bowl, but then he had no arm strength whatsoever. Drew Brees couldn't complete a pass beyond 15 yards. He would throw maybe 1 to 2 a game, right? Otherwise, it was under routes that you had to, scheme a guy open to get a bunch of yak. Couldn't yield deep throws. Phillip Rivers, he was throwing underarm. Yet he was still potentially the 49ers quarterback.
He was underhand.
Underhand.
You see, he was throwing underarm.
Under
I just picture he's throwing with his underarm. I just throw with my underarm.
Yeah, underhanded.
I put the ball under my arm, and I run up to somebody, and I just open my arm, and the ball falls.
Yeah, screw you. I knew what I meant. Underhanded.
He was throwing underarm.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing him with the ball under his arm.
Well, I mean, you know what? You kind of propel yourself with great force. Maybe you can pull that off. You know what? He might be able to throw it just as far as he did.
Yeah, he just pops it out of his underarm and it goes flying. Okay, that could happen. All right.
It's kind of like a derivation of Super Toe, but the quarterback version.
Sure.
But just the idea is, like, we watched all of these quarterbacks. Age got them. And the Packers had been down that road before with a pretty good start to a season that they had no discernible backup or guy that was ready. Sorry, Brent Hundley, I got to do this to you.
Oh,
you watched the season get derailed.
Too soon, UCLA.
Right? No, but remember how well they started that year.
Yeah.
And then they were awful. They couldn't move the ball 50 yards the rest of a half. He was so bad. And so they weren't going to go down that road again, especially as he was getting older and he'd had a couple of lackluster seasons. So you draft Jordan Love. Well, guess what? He responds and has a couple of MVP years. Ta-da! But you were equipped, in theory, if he'd gotten hurt or grossly underperformed or whatever was going to happen. And instead, now you've got a guy that's well-seasoned. And last year, he got all the off-season reps.
Yep.
So you roll with that.
They did.
Dallas with Dak Prescott, at some point, you don't get that long leash.
Yeah, and it might not be Trey Lance. They're getting Trey Lance. It could be any other young quarterback. It could have been we're trading for Zach Wilson.
But that's just it. It's opening the door.
This is a guy that we're going to use that's going to make you step up or not. And if you step up, great. And if not, hey, eventually, like I said, maybe after this year, maybe a year after that, it's kind of in the Packers type situation where eventually they know Rodgers is going to leave and go someplace else. It might be now, it might be 2 years. Same thing with Russell Wilson, the Seahawks. It might be now, it might be after this year, but we got to start looking at life after this quarterback. Whereas before the game against the 49ers, was Dak's our guy for the 7 years. He's great. I love Dak. Dak. At 37, he's going to get a $300 million contract from Jerry Jones because he loves Dak. But everything changed. And now it's okay. There is a time limit on this for you. And I would, would it be too fast for them to move on from after this year? It really depends who's out there. But if in 2 years it doesn't happen, that's what you got to look at. So now there's a clock at the end of the rainbow for Dak Prescott. There's no pot of gold. There is now a clock that's going tick, 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 tick.
It's a good visual.
You like that?
I like that.
He just doing tick, 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 tick.
And if you don't get there fast enough, it blows up your rainbow, so you never get that big payoff. See, there you go.